We are off and running at the PGA at Quail Hollow. Speaking of running, how about jumping? Did PJ Haggerty get himself into the second round of the NBA draft? He had a great combine. He was third in shooting percentage. He made 73% of his shots. Then yesterday, 18 points, 7 rebounds in a scrimmage. I was looking at mocks today, Elijah Seegers. I didn't see him there.
I have not either.
We'll talk with Munzie tomorrow about what he thinks is going on. He has not, of course, ruled out going back to college. He said, here's a guy who could make $3 million, because I know that offer was on the table. If it's there today, I can't tell you, because it looks like maybe Penny has turned the page on that, but I'm not 100% certain. I don't think anybody really is. But here's what he said. Quote, if I have to, I have to. So you're talking about a $3 million offer. If I have to, I have to. Instead of if he ends up being a two-way guy, second round guys, a lot of the times that's what they get. You're talking $500,000. Maybe it's $580 now, closer to $600. But it's a fifth, 20% of what you would make in college. Really less than that. It is phenomenal, the choices that they do have. And by the way, I feel bad because yesterday, remember I was talking about the sharpshooter that was coming from Lane College. He went to first Tyler Community College, then he went to Southwest Tennessee, a connection with the proximity. He goes to Lane, that's in Jackson, plays really well. His name is Mason Matthews, and Eli did a terrific job of interviewing his coach today, and he compared him to Duncan Robinson. Now, if this guy turns out to be Duncan Robinson, this is going to be a hell of a year for the U of M. And the point they're making, now you got a bunch of sharpshooters, supposedly, that are in this class. There's no big guys. There's all guards, unless you get Danger back. And we'll update that story, I guess, to the best of our abilities tomorrow with Munzie. But, I mean, if he's Duncan Robinson, who did go to a D2 school and then went to Michigan and now is making big money in the NBA, that would be a hell of a story if that is Mason Matthews. I started thinking about it. They weren't Division II schools, though. But look at Rick Barnes and Tennessee. Dalton Connect, low major. Not a D2, low major. Chaz Lanier this year, I think an even lower mid-major. North Florida, right?
That's right.
That's not a D2 school. That's a lower mid-major. But those worked out. So, maybe that will be the case for the University of Memphis. I was thinking about this, too. I've been reading all these stories of the Calipari coming back to Memphis. And part of the caveat, which I said yesterday, I'm all for it. Let's go. Let's honor the past. He wants something done for his big guys from the past. Now, is that just a reunion of 2008? Don't forget, CDR was just elected into the M Club Hall of Fame last year. Earl Barron is really a good friend of the program. Earl, by the way, becoming a financial analyst and a very successful dude. I'm so happy for him. Be great if he came back. And then I saw other names mentioned. Here's one name, because he was a great story, and then he became sort of a tragic story that I would just love to see again. And I think it would help make his day. That is Antonio Burks. You may recall Burks was a kid from Memphis. I think it's Booker T. Washington. And Antonio came in, and he had these gold teeth. And when Cal took over, he wanted a much more clean look. I mean, tattoos were okay, longer hair was okay, but he drew the line, I guess, at gold teeth. And Burks wanted to quit. And he had people, and I think Ken Bennett might have been involved in this from Street Ministries. He talked Antonio into changing his mind, staying with the team, and he became the conference player of the year, had a cup of coffee in the NBA. I don't know if it was enough to make a pension, but he had definitely had a couple of good pro years. And when he was the conference player of the year, that was when Cincinnati, Louisville, all the good teams were in the league. That was, I don't know if that was, I think that might have been CUSA. I think it was. But it was really a competitive CUSA that we get 3 or 4 teams into the tournament every year. And he was the MVP of that league. He was a great story. Unfortunately, he was involved in a robbery of a poker game in his neighborhood. And I want to say he's in a wheelchair. But I loved the kid. He always had this infectious smile. He had a love for life. And he turned out to be a great player. And I think Calipari helped turn him around. And I think Cal still kind of shoots him a little support. So I would hope that when they're doing this reunion, DeJuan Wagner, it'd be nice to have him come back too. I would hope it's not just the 2008 team, because who knows if Cal will ever come back and play Memphis, at least in the FedEx Forum. If you're doing this, bring them all back. Let's have fun. Let's make this thing for St. Jude really, truly a special deal. Bring them all back. That's what I have to say. We're going to talk with our friend Pete Pranica on the National Basketball Association playoffs and also the Grizzlies at the Combine and the assistant coach staffing. Somebody has mentioned a possibility of Tony Allen becoming an assistant coach. I'd like to pick Pete's brain about that. We'll do that here in just about 3 minutes. We'll talk house settlement and what LSU might do and a whole bunch of other stuff, including the SEC baseball race. That will be with Ron Higgins. That comes your way at the bottom of the hour. And then Jarvis Greer off this week. Steve Earhart will come on. They just had the bowl meetings in San Destin. And I'm really not sure what direction this is. You know that all of the bowl contracts are up with the TV contracts. This next year is the final year of the deal where the SEC and the Big 12 play in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. So what is the future of that? We will get into that with Steve Earhart in our last segment of the show today. Just a couple of baseball notes before we bring in our good friend Pete Pranica, and that is, I don't know if you saw it at the what is it called? The Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati?
That would be correct.
Yeah. Which is, I've never been in the stadium, but I've been around the stadium. I've been in their souvenir shop. And it's a cool ballpark. They went nuts yesterday. They had a moment of silence, and they had all kind of cheers and chants of 14-14. It was Pete Rose Celebration Day at the Great American Ballpark. And this is the way it should be. We should celebrate this dude's incredible contributions to baseball. I saw one quote, and I can't remember who it was from. It might have been Terry Francona, who said, if he's not in the Hall of Fame, there ain't no Hall of Fame. And that's true, because he was on the field a Hall of Famer 1,000,000 times over. He's the greatest hitter, contact hitter in the history of the game. More hits than anybody else. And in his chase of the Ty Cobb mark, that was, I don't know if it was quite as dramatic as the home run chase with Sosa McGuire, but it was on an incredible level. And so I think this is fitting. His name, his contributions on the field should be celebrated as they were in Cincinnati yesterday, and he doesn't get any of the glory, and that's the way it should be because of his absolute transgressions and putting baseball in a credibility spot that they should never have been in. And I should point out the Cardinals split a doubleheader yesterday, so they finally got cooled off. The 9-game winning streak came to an end, then they won the nightcap. 14-7. So they won 10 of 11, and my Cubbies are only a game ahead of them. They are both off today. And I was thinking about this is, you know how the Detroit Pistons have turned it around, and the Detroit Lions were so dominating in the NFC Central a year ago. How about the Detroit Tigers? Did you realize, Elijah Seegers, that the Detroit Tigers have the best record in baseball? They are 29-15. They are a half a game ahead of the L.A. Dodgers. Motor City is motoring, baby.
Motoring big time. Big turnaround for all of those three teams, really.
It's
crazy
incredible.
stuff.
Remember that poor town. The only team they had for a long time they were Hockey Town USA, because they had the great Detroit Red Wings run for many years. That is long gone though. Now that team's not so good. My Chicago's got to get it too. The Cubs are supposed to be it. We'll see. A guy from up north of Chicago, that would be Milwaukee. I know he's a big Green Bay guy. That is for sure. But we're talking basketball this morning with the TV voice of the Grizzlies, Pete Pranica. I know your Grizz brass must be at the Combine. That's in Chicago, right? Isn't that where all that's going on?
Yep.
Have they got a bunch of guys there? Have you ever gone to a Combine?
No. I don't even know if the media is even allowed outside of maybe the official NBA media. My thing, and I don't follow the draft as closely as some people, because to me it's what you do with the guy once you get him into your program. How many guys have been so wildly thought of coming out of college and they get to the NBA and they're not very good. So I've never been to the Combine. No interest. Summer League's a little bit of a different deal, because you can actually see guys playing rather than jumping up and down and running around cones, which is what they do at the Combine.
Yeah, I'm with you like that on recruiting. Like, I don't really care about the stars that you have by the name. I want to see what your role is going to be. I want to see how you play that. I want to see what your attitude is like, and then I want to see your skill level. And a lot of times it doesn't translate to the amount of publicity you got pre. And we've seen. I don't know if you were referring to Hashim Thabit when you mentioned bad busts when it comes to drafts, but that is the truth. I don't think Cooper Flagg's going to be a bust. We know Victor Wembanyama wasn't a bust. Do you think, by the way, if you've paid any attention to that, you think Cooper Flagg's going to be the real deal?
I would imagine that he probably will be. I mean, so much is going to be thrust upon him. Part of what his ultimate success or lack thereof is going to be how he handles it. And I think Victor Wembanyama has done a remarkable job of handling all the attention that has been paid to him, and he stayed well-grounded. And if Cooper Flagg can follow that type of formula, I think he's going to be fine. The expectations that are being placed on him are ridiculously high. So, his ability to deal with that and still play basketball. The other thing, too, Wolo, and you see this in recruiting, there are some athletes peak when they're in high school, some peak in college, some don't peak until they're, 5 years in the NBA with their skill level. Where you're looking at Luke Cornett last night, 7 blocks. The kid was undrafted. So it just depends on a whole variety of variables. But I think by and large, Cooper Flagg is about as can't miss as Wembanyama.
Well, that is high praise for sure. Now, there's conspiracy theorists out there that think 1.8% chance Dallas, where the market's all angry at the GM Nico Harrison for the Luka Doncic trade. This thing was fixed. 1.8%. Really, last year, the team that won the pick was a 3% chance. Since 2019, when this system came in, not one last place team has ever gotten the first pick. I'm not saying conspiracy, but I am saying flawed. I think they need to figure this out a little bit better. Your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think it would be better for the league if your 3 worst teams have an even greater shot at winning. But it's a lottery. I mean, somebody's got to win Powerball, and those odds are pretty long too. So, I mean, you'd like to. I mean, Utah's a great fan base. Why wouldn't the league, if you're going to fix it? Hey, let's get Utah. That's really a great fan base, and they have a great tradition. Why not them? What about revitalizing, the Wizards, who have been terrible for so
long?
So yeah, it's not rigged. It's not fixed. It's it's the odds were very, very long for Dallas, and somehow Nico Harrison comes out of there smelling like a rose.
He sure does, because there was definitely a lot of heat on him. All right, last week we talked about Tomas Isolo getting the job. Now there's a lot of speculation because there is at least 3 that are known staff openings as assistant coaches. Tony Allen, by the way, is mentioned as one candidate in one story that I read. Do you have any thoughts on potential assistant coaches? Is there anybody you would like to see, or what kind of coach would you like to see?
Well, it's a real good question. I mean, it really focuses on Tomas's personality and what he values. His brother was an assistant for him over in Europe, so does he bring his brother over?
Yeah.
I think that's a possibility.
Have we ever had that in the NBA? 2 brothers as coaches, one had one assistant?
I'd have to do some research. It seems like it would have to have been possible at some point.
Elijah Seegers seems to have the answer to that, yeah?
Yeah, Chauncey Billups, head coach of the Blazers, brought in his brother Rodney to be an assistant a few years ago.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Brilliant mind of Seegers lets us know that. Okay, so there's been some precedent. How about that?
There has been some precedent. One guy potentially that you could look at would be T.C. Swirsky, who had been in the video room for the Grizzlies and then had gone on to be the head coach of the Hustle after Jason March was moved to the big team. So it will be interesting because obviously Tomas does not have the NBA connections. Because you look at Dave Yeager would take assistants from place to place. Depending on where he was coaching. And now he's become a protege of Doc Rivers, and so where Doc goes, Yeager goes. So, but Tomas doesn't have that. So I think it's going to be a broader-based approach maybe other than just Tomas saying, I want this guy, because he doesn't have those NBA contacts. And I don't know that he's going to bring guys over from Europe necessarily. So yeah, I mean it's going to be a very intriguing process to see exactly how they flesh that staff out, and will they continue to keep the assistants that they already have, or are they going to make more changes?
Right.
I like the staff that they've got now. I think Eric Schmidt is a very, very bright young coach, has done a real good job in the player development aspect with Jaren Jackson Jr. Patrick Mutombo took over a lot of the defensive coordination, and I thought there was a slight improvement in the defense later in the season. So we'll see how it all plays out. I'm sure they're going to evaluate everybody from top to bottom, but you're right, there are openings to be filled.
Now, one writer did throw out the Tony Allen name. Do you think Tony would be a good defensive coach? Would he be a good coach?
That's a good question. I don't know. Tony's doing so well with his podcast. I don't know that he wants to give that up. It's intriguing because, when Damon Stoudemire transitioned from playing to coaching, I talked to him when he was an assistant coach. He said, man, this is harder than I thought it would be. It's a full-time gig. I mean, you're developing game plans and you're watching a ton of video and you're in the gym all the time. Does Tony want to do that? And I'm not saying that he doesn't want to do it, but he's really enjoyed being a media personality, and a lot of that would have to go away if he were to become an assistant coach.
Since you brought up Damon Stoudemire, I always felt like he'd be a great coach as a head coach. When he was an assistant with Josh Pastner, I had plenty of conversations with him. He always made me think about something I had never thought about before.
Yeah, Biggie is a very, very bright basketball mind, and I'm thrilled for his success.
Me too. All right, let's move on to the playoffs. Let's start with 2 teams getting eliminated last night. The Pacers take care of the number 1 seed, Cleveland. Minnesota able to knock off a Steph Curry-less Golden State Warrior team. Your thoughts about the Warriors, because Steve Kerr said after they were eliminated, had Curry played, he thought they could have won a title. Do you buy any of that?
I think they could have won the series. I don't know that they would have won the title because you're still looking at an Oklahoma City team that's awfully good and could eliminate Denver tonight. But there's a belief there at Golden State that as long as you have Steph Curry, if you have Curry and Butler and Draymond Green, they think they can still win a championship. They're going to have to build out a few things around them. I think part of it is going to determine what happens with Jonathan Kuminga. Do they pick up his option, and what is his future with the team? Because he's been in and out of the rotation. I don't think that like I said, they could have won the series over Minnesota if Curry plays. Win a championship, that's where I draw the line. I don't think so.
I'd be curious to see if they run it back the same way with a healthy Curry, because they were the best team once they acquired Butler, I think, in the entire league. So I'd be curious about that. Draymond Green, we've talked about his troubles and the angry black man thing that was the most ridiculous self-characterization, because he brought it up, that I've ever seen. But he then got fined $50,000 for questioning the integrity of a referee. What do you do if you're that organization? Do you say to him, look, we want to run this thing back, but we need you to be an adult? Can you do that? What do you do with him?
Well, they've done such a job of enabling him and covering for him all these years. So now, after you've enabled this, you're going to tell him you need to stop doing this. And they will use whatever euphemisms they can, whether it's his passion, his love for the game, and his competitive spirit, and all that. They kind of let this go on too long, and people around the league, and a number of people around the league, complained to the NBA. And Draymond Green gets a very, very long leash with referees. I mean, he is arguing every call, and most of which are pretty obvious. And yet he probably should get to Dylan Brooks' technical foul limit the way that Dylan has been able to do it. It does put him in a tough situation, because if he had picked up, I think, another technical foul, he would have been suspended for the rest of for a game in the series. So, but I think that that bell cannot be unrung with Draymond Green.
I know that Mobley and Garland missed the first game of the series. I know that Mitchell was not 100% in the final game of the series. But are you surprised at the way Indianapolis just dispatched of the team that was dominant in the East, the Cavaliers?
I thought the Cavaliers played really, really soft, and particularly in an elimination game. And that front line that had been so good through the regular season didn't show up. Max Strus was an absolute no-show in the elimination game. I am a little surprised. Cleveland was so dominant in the regular season, but I think what we're seeing is that when you get to the postseason, it is not only your skill level, it's also the level of will that you are able to put out there on the floor. And Rick Carlisle is one of the great competitors in our league and one of the great coaches in the league. And Indiana is a tough-minded team, and they've got guys that are real dogs. I mean, you look at Halliburton, you look at Nesmith and Nembhard, and I think Miles Turner might be one of the more underappreciated big men we have in the league. And then you got Pascal Siakam. I mean, this team's really good too. The only way that they would get themselves sideways during the regular season is they play quickly and they tend to turn it over, and their defense might have suffered a little bit as a result. But Rick Carlisle is a championship-winning coach, and I'm not surprised that Indiana advanced. I'm a little surprised at how relatively easy it was for them to advance.
Despite the aforementioned Cornet, I don't think Boston will survive this series. I think you're going to see another upset here, and you're going to have the Knicks. And the Knicks could very well win this championship with the makeup that they have, with some guys with some veteran experience here. And Brunson's playing like he's Michael Jordan. Do you see, or what do you see in the Knicks, if that's the case, and the Pacers?
Well, I'm probably going to lean with the Knicks, just because they do have the best clutch scorer, best fourth quarter scorer in the NBA, and Jalen Brunson. Mikal Bridges has been absolutely fantastic on both ends of the floor, and I think he is really the X factor. And Karl Anthony Towns kind of under the radar. He's just a 20-10 guy. Now, going back to saying that Cleveland played a little soft in their elimination game, I just thought the Knicks kind of walked into the Garden last night thinking like, okay, well, this is a walkover. They don't have Tatum. This is going to be easy. And credit to Boston for bowing their elbows and backs and getting a win in an elimination game.
Yeah, it was. I was surprised in the second half how dominant the Boston Celtics were, and Cornell. What do you have? 8 blocks last night was
7. Yeah.
That was pretty impressive. All right, and then in the West, I think OKC. I don't know if they win tonight, but they're going to win the series. OKC, in my estimation, do you agree with that? And if that's the case, let's say it's the Knicks, and it's going to be OKC, and how would that play out? Because we're not going to talk for a couple of weeks.
Right. Well, I do think OKC wins the series eventually, and it may well be in 7 games. I think Denver will rely on their championship experience, their home court, their ability to win close games. I think they'll force a 7th game, but I think Oklahoma City overall, I just think they're the best team in the league. So if we go Oklahoma City and New York, that's going to be a very intriguing matchup because you've got a more experienced team in the New York Knicks, and I think it'd be one heck of a series. I hard to believe that I would say that the New York Knicks may well end up with the Larry O'Brien Trophy when it's all over.
I tend to be leaning that same way. I think OKC though. Here's the thing. This will be the true judge. We always say you gotta have playoff experience. You gotta have that DNA scar tissue in your soul. We'll see, because if it's OKC and the Knicks, we've got the veteran versus the young up and comers, and it'll be a true test. And we'll be in the thick of that, I think, Pete, when we speak next. Thank you so much.
All right, have a great day.
You got it. That is Pete Pranica, TV voice of the Grizzlies. Brought to you by Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Ken knows you are making a major investment, whether it's a renovation with innovation. He's going to bring you all the modern amenities to your older home because you don't want to move. You love your lot. You love that location. It's home. But you want the new movie room with the speakers in the wall and the big screens and the theater seating, and you want the California closets and the island in the kitchen and all the new appliances. He knows how to do that. Or maybe you got land in your family, you're ready to build that dream home, but you're not sure how to utilize that piece of property. They know 3 generations of wisdom at Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. They will definitely do it right for you because they see little things in the big picture all at once. They're unique, and there's 3 generations now in the business. Williams have been added to Ken Jr. They are a team with a track record is the best way I could put it. Go to kengarland.com. You'll see what I'm talking about, and then call Ken. You want the best, and that is what Ken Garland Custom Home Builders is. We take a break. When we come back, we will head on down to Baton Rouge. We talk SEC, house settlement, how LSU is going to work things out. We'll do that momentarily with our historian, Ron Higgins. He's next.
Start your day with Sports 56 mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Hey everybody, 2026 is already here at All-Star Chevy in Olive Branch. Come out today and drive one of these all-new 2026 Equinoxes. Did you say Silverado? Nobody has more new Silverados than All-Star. I'm out here in Olive Branch today where all the Chevys are. And May is your month to finance your all-new Silverado as low as 0.9. That's less than 1%. And your good credit deserves it. If you're law enforcement, first responder, healthcare, military, education, recent grad, you get an extra $500 bonus. And All-Star has every pre-owned truck and SUV you're looking for. If you don't see it here, ask Jeff and he will find it fast. If you have any vehicle you want to sell, bring it here to All-Star Chevy in Olive Branch and get the most money for it today. So wherever this summer takes you, Drew and everybody here at All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch wish you and your family a happy and safe travels. Together, let's drive. Visit All-Star Chevy in Olive Branch or go to allstarautogroup.com.
Huge news. Right now at Wendy's, you can get a Son of Baconator for just $3. I don't think you understand this situation. The Son of Baconator is only $3 for a limited time. You know, smoked bacon, rich melted cheese. That Son of Baconator is only $3. Thank you to whoever wished upon that star. For bacon that just won't quit, gotta be Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii, not valid on a combo or in third-party delivery platform.
June is always a month of celebration. People are getting married. People are graduating. And those people need somewhere to do their celebrating. And we offer up Bell Tavern, Memphis' perfect downtown bar. You could take your group to a chain restaurant or bar, but those places don't have a tenth of the charm of Bell Tavern. Chains are sterile and impersonal. Bell Tavern is a cool oasis for most places. Signature cocktails, ice-cold beer, and the friendliest staff in town. This is a chance for you to show off your knowledge of Memphis, to impress out-of-towners by taking them to the coolest bar they've been to in a long time. Unless, of course, they go to Bell Tavern. Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshyn.
Just to give you a PGA update from Quail Hollow, this is an international affair. This is crazy. Ryan Fox from New Zealand, he is tied for the lead with the Englishman Luke Donald, with Alex Noren. And I think Alex Noren is from Sweden. Then you've got Stefan Jaeger, who is from Germany. You have David Puig, who is, I know he went to Arizona State. La Garriga. Is that Spain?
I believe so.
Yeah. Matthew Fitzpatrick, another Englishman. Rasmus Højgaard. Can you believe this? All these guys? And, of course, the Højgaards are ballooned, which is, I think that's, is that Sweden?
I was going to guess like Danish, maybe?
Could be. Denmark? Yeah. Then finally, Keegan Bradley. All at 3 under. By the way, Puig, Fitzpatrick, Højgaard, Bradley, Greiserman, and I'm not even sure I know Justin Lower, but Justin Lower is all at 3 under. Rahm is at 2 under. He's the biggest name at 2 under. Sam Burns is there as well. The course has beaten up the favorites. Scotty Scheffler, the big trio, right? Scotty, Rory, Xander. Scotty even, Rory 1 over, Xander 2 over. Wow, crazy day at Quail Hollow. Let's go down and see our friend as we move the Family Leisure Studio, still pool time in Memphis, where you can get 24-foot pools at under $2,000. Liners starting at under $300 and pool accessories 20% off. Here's the key. Mention us, you get free installation, and you get on the pool installation list. You get a priority, which you need to have because summer's almost here. It's going to be in the upper 70s today. You want that pool ready? You want it in? It's pool time. You're going to get the best price right now. If you head to I-40 and Wooden Road, it is pool time at Family Leisure. So to the wonderful state of Louisiana we go, and our SEC historian, Ron Higgins. House settlement may end up happening this week. Good morning, Ron. How will LSU settle it? Because we know, here's the recommendation either from the judge or the NCAA. The revenue streams that come in on an average throughout of college athletics, 75% come from football, 15% men's basketball. According to this, 5% recommendation should go to women's basketball of the $20.5 million salary cap. 5% go to all the others, including baseball. Are you surprised at that breakdown, number one? And what is LSU going to do? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm surprised, and I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because football pays the freight for almost every other sport in an athletic department, almost everywhere. So I understand that. That said, I don't know if LSU is going to follow that guide of 75% to football. Because they get a ton of money in football anyway. So I mean, it's not like that they could hog all of it. I believe that. Honestly, LSU, if you had to rate the sports in order of success and popularity, it'd be football, baseball, women's basketball, and women's gymnastics. That's the biggest, most. There's best sports they've been the best in. They draw the most people.
And so when you look at that, you look at what the guidelines, the national guidelines, at least for LSU, it doesn't add up. Now, I don't know how the schools will decide how to allocate the money. I mean, but just from the Title IX standpoint, 75% towards football?
Well, that's the most interesting aspect because these are recommendations based on revenue streams coming in. I don't understand how women's basketball brings in 5%. I know you got a big budget at LSU. Kim Mulkey is making a lot of money, so there's a big expenditure out. And I guess they average 9,000 or 10,000. Is women's basketball making money? Do they bring in 5% of the revenue?
No, they lose money. But women's basketball probably loses money everywhere. Except for maybe UConn or South Carolina, but it loses money everywhere.
Iowa too.
Well, they spend a lot of money. They spend a lot of money on recruiting, a lot of money on salaries, a lot of money on travel. They travel. They play like the men. They play tournaments and on islands and stuff like that. So I mean, the travel's quite a bit. So no, they lose money. Women's basketball has never made money at LSU, even in its best years. So I understand, the reluctance that they should get more money, but a lot of athletic directors look at the school, look at programs like if they're playing well, if they're doing well nationally, if they're getting national publicity for the school, exposure all over the place for how good they are, then it's worth the money they lose. That's how most ADs look at it. That said, it'll be interesting to see how all this is divided up. But I like the fact they give the schools the option of how to divide that money, and they don't have to stick to the guidelines, because the guidelines are really unreasonable. They really are.
Well, the most interesting aspect to me is this, seriously. We've always been told Title IX is all about equal opportunity, right? So the opportunity is there that $20.5 million are revenues that you are now sharing with your student athletes. I'm actually shocked that it hasn't just been a slam dunk federal thing that you go, okay, that means $10.25 million go to women's athletic because that's all about opportunity. And that's what you're revenue sharing with all the resources that come in. So I'm amazed that is not a part of it. I've heard an athletic director say it's going to be up to the schools, and there are some schools that will totally ignore what they're going to do with Title IX on this revenue share. I don't know how they get away with that in the long run.
I really don't either. I don't think they'll be ignored LSU. LSU has always been really put a lot of finances into their women's sports. I wouldn't think that they would ignore them. And again, I think some of these Power 5 schools, they make so much money with football, and they have so much NIL deals and stuff coming in. I don't know if they shouldn't take $75 million from themselves. They should take closer to $60 million or $55 million and give other sports more money. With other sports that don't have the same NIL contributions coming in. Yeah.
I will give it to LSU. They've always had a pretty open mind about even with NIL. Wasn't the gymnast, what's her face, who's such a great
Olivia Dunn.
Olivia Dunn. Wasn't she the highest NIL paid player athlete at LSU over football players and basketball stars?
Yeah, and the second highest paid athlete was a women's basketball player. So there you go.
And was that Angel Reese when she was there, or is that somebody different?
Well, it's Flau'jae Johnson, who. Oh
yeah.
Flau'jae, yeah. I mean, so and she's still probably way up there. And of course, she has a recording career also. That helps, but yeah, I mean, LSU's been. LSU has a really good NIL department. They promote it. That's how they get a lot of recruits in here. That's an attraction for transfers. Honestly.
It is. I mean, I still don't know how the NIL is going to work. They got a clearinghouse. It's going to be market based. I just don't see how this thing will really be regulated. That's just my guess.
I believe that. I'm with you. I don't know how they're going to do it because there's lawyers that don't like filing lawsuits. Yeah.
And I don't think the NCAA likes being sued.
They fold every time.
In the last few years, they've just decided to give up because they haven't been able to win any of them.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, they just put their hands in their lap and don't do anything.
It's pretty remarkable. And then talk to me a little bit about baseball. I know you've been to, I think, every LSU baseball game. You've seen all the major series. You are watching the best baseball in college without a question. This is like AA baseball, or just about AA baseball. Who's the best team? Because there is so much parity in the league this year.
Yeah, I think right now, I know, LSU beat Arkansas 2-3 over the weekend, and they're number one in the polls right now. But I honestly believe it. The best team in the SEC is probably Arkansas, and LSU's right there with them.
What about Texas? Do they have the best record in the league?
Texas, yeah, but they start to fade. I mean, they've down the stretch here. They've lost a couple of series in a row, maybe 2 or 3 in a row. They've kind of faded. I think Georgia's coming up. Auburn's coming up. Vandy's coming on strong. Tennessee has faded big time.
Yeah, Vandy got them this week, right?
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, it's like I always say, everybody, it's a crazy league. You can get beat by anybody on any weekend in this league if you don't come to play. And it's happened over and over again. Missouri swept A&M at A&M. Missouri hadn't won a game. They were 0-24 in the league.
I was going to ask you, how in the world does that happen? And what's happened to A&M in particular? Because they were the preseason favorite, were they not?
Yeah, they got a first-year coach, and it's been tough for them. And they went down the drain. I mean, they rallied back for a while, and then they went down the drain again. I mean, and honestly, losing like that to Missouri, it's put them on the tournament bubble. I mean, they're barely in. They may be out. You don't lose a home. You don't get swept at home by a team that's 0-24 in the league. I mean, that's just crazy. But honestly, that's the SEC, man. That really is. When you think you got to figure it out, you don't.
I can't wait, and I know you got one more weekend of series, and then you've got the tournament, which is single elimination this year. And then there are going to be a bunch of them hosted. Can't wait for postseason in baseball, and I think the SEC is probably going to dominate this whole thing. Should be fun to watch.
They could get 13 teams in. I mean, 13 or 14, honestly.
If they get that out of 16 teams, that'd be great. Well, look what they did in the basketball tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, it is crazy what is going on with the SEC. Ron Higgins, as always, we appreciate it. We will talk to you in a couple of weeks. We got the next 2 weeks off.
All right, Wolo, take care. We'll see you.
Thank you. That's our man, our historian down in Baton Rouge. Ron Higgins is brought to you by Gator Patrol and great folks from Guyan City. You know, Gator just kind of makes me, it's more Florida, but it's, they got swamps down in LSU territory down in Baton Rouge. They got the marshland. So it made me think, Gator Patrol is perfect for him. He'd love it. It's sweet tart. It's refreshing at the same time. It's a fruited sour. And it's perfectly balanced by a subtle hint of cream. It's the perfect spring-summer drink. If you try it, you'll thank me later. You can get it downtown at Grind City Brewing at the brewery, this modern facility that's got this beautiful expanse right next door to it with a view of the river, of downtown, of the bridges. And by the way, a stage now. It's a venue. And then all the product from Poppies to this Gator Patrol to this craft malt liquor called Tiger Tail, named after the U of M, and now distributed all over the place. They can't keep it on the racks in the state of Georgia. They just started distributing there. It's now a taste of the city and a place of the city. If you haven't seen the new stage, go check out Grind City Brewing. We take a break. When we come back, we'll go cross town to the AutoZone Liberty Bowl offices. The Big Cheese, the head honcho, will talk to us about the bowl meetings down in Florida. Steve Earhart's coming your way in just a minute.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Sports 56.
For 8 decades, America's farmers have counted on the little red tractor from Case IH, the Farm Hall, to help them make sure work on demand and chores. Mid-South Ag can show you the largest for farms in with an army of attachments, they can tackle every chore on your to-do list. From hauling and mowing to loading and towing and then some. Stop by Mid-South Ag Equipment or call 662-890-3141 to find a Case IH farm haul that's right for you.
At Straight Talk, we are all about no-brainers. Calling Grandma for her recipe, no-brainer. Streaming one more episode at 2 a.m., big no-brainer. Getting real unlimited data where you buy bananas, the ultimate no-brainer. Switch now and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2024 with select plans. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. Offer valid 5/19/25 taxes and fee supply repairs. Answer a single line activation on qualifying plan for network management practices. Visit StraightTalk.com/terms. Copyright 2025 Verizon.
You're hungry for good meat? Trust the family that has been feeding you since 1967. Charlie Hogan, Triangle Meat Company. Trust Triangle Meat for fresh beef, hamburger, and rub. Trust Triangle Meat for delicious pork ribs, chops, and butter. And trust Triangle Meat for tender chicken, no blood. 80 bucks a month. Triangle Meat Company has all the meat you need. Shop Triangle Meat Company. 8 to 5, Monday through Saturday, 4790 Summer Avenue, 901 683-1192. Fresh or frozen, big or small. Trust Triangle Meat Company.
Jarvis Greer off this week, and I thought it was the perfect time to revisit a gentleman that's on with us in the fall all the time on the business of bowls and college football, and that is the Big Cheese head honcho of the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. That is Steve Earhart. The bowl directors had their annual meeting in Florida. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, because all these bowl contracts with conferences and TV, they're all up after this next season, after the 25 season. So good morning, Steve, and let me know, what was it like down at those meetings? What did you all come up with? What did you learn?
I think we learned that we're in an amazing state of flux here in certainly in college football and basically college sports all over. But it's a transition year for basically everybody. The college football playoff, as we know, it has this season, the 25 season, and that then expires after this year's game. And all the bowl games, they're also in. I don't want to keep saying state of flex, but our contracts all run out after the 25 season. So everybody's in a state of negotiation. And in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl case, we're negotiating with ESPN, with the SEC, with the Big 12, and with ESPN. So, and with AutoZone, our great title sponsor. So, yeah, this is a period of time when things are up in the air, and the reason things are not getting, resolved is because the House settlement, which I'm not sure many people, even in the business, totally understand, and maybe we can talk about that a minute, but that's been postponed several times because it's such a complex settlement agreement. And so we talked with the athletic director, Hunter from Urachek from Arkansas, who was here a couple nights ago, and he's actually on the CFP committee, and he said he doesn't think things will get straightened out until potentially August. So there's so many decisions that have to come to pass here, but it's all coming to a head here in these next few months.
Well, I thought the judge was supposed to actually put out another statement regarding the sticking point to the whole agreement at this point is just a grandfather clause on roster limits, and she wants those that have been on rosters that would exceed the limit. They want that. She wants that grandfathered in. They're trying to do away with that, and at this point, that seems to be the sticking point in this deal. But I want to go back. Let's go to each deal, okay? Because they got to be weighing on your mind. The first thing is the SEC deal. Where are you with Greg Sankey, and where do you think the future will be with the SEC and the AutoZone Liberty Bowl?
Well, we're working diligently and with the help and support of the entire community, and that's the key. Everybody wants to be associated with the Big Four now because they're really, running college football at this point in time. I mean, we've all seen it as the Pac-12 disappeared, and they were soaked into the ACC and the Big 12 and so on. And so those four conferences and
is it
ESPN,
really four or is it two? Is it really? Isn't it the SEC and the Big
well,
10 that are running it all?
I believe that the ACC and the Big 12, they're close enough that they have enough muscle. Like you probably saw that the ACC, they've stood up and said, "Wait a minute, this idea that that the SEC and the Big 10 should get automatic spots in the playoff, that's just not right." Because one of the plans that the Big 10 and the SEC had suggested was if they go to 14 teams in the playoff, that the Big 10 would get 4, the SEC would get 4. These are automatic spots in the playoff, and that the ACC and the Big 12 would only get 2. And so now they're pushing back and say, wait a minute, why should it be preconditioned? Should it be just established by the committee in rankings and be totally open, or should the ACC and the Big 12 get 3 each, that they're just as good as that? So it's certainly not settled, but there's no question that the Big 10 and the SEC have the most clout right now. But I think both the Big 12 and the SEC are close, and I'm hopeful that the University of Memphis, they're making a big push to become a member of the Big 12 to strengthen the Big 12 conference. So I think there's some push coming from both the Big 12 and the ACC. Let's not let just 2 conferences make all the rules.
If they did go 4-4-3-3, that's 14. Wouldn't they have to go to 16? One spot for Notre Dame and one spot for the group of 5?
Yeah, you filled in that blank there. And so that's another possibility. But I'm hopeful, and this is just a guy trying to be somewhat independent, I'd rather have a committee rank the teams all, whether it's 14 or 16, and just do the rankings all the way down. And that's on the field then. Now, maybe the SEC will absolutely, control that, because maybe they'll have 5 teams in there because they're so darn good. But I'd rather have it be decided on the field in the current year rather than just going backwards and say, okay, well, the SEC's been strong. And actually, the SEC, a good example is the basketball, what they've done in basketball. I mean, 5 years ago, they had 3 or 4 teams going into the basketball tournament, and this year they had 14 out of 16 teams qualify. So but it was decided on the court, and that's where I'm promoting that. Let's just not have any absolute guarantees. Let it be ranked, and I think that between the American and the Mountain West and so on, I think they will at least get one team that would be ranked in the top 16 if they were to go to that. So I believe that it would still be better to have the players know that, hey, it's not preordained, and then that creates a greater division between the big guys and the little guys.
I'm not so sure that the Mountain West or the American would get a top 16 team. I think you've got to protect that and give them an automatic berth, the best from that group. Because if you're going by rankings, I wouldn't count on that, not one bit. Because they'll go, strength of schedule, and there'll be a million different reasons why.
You could be right, David, and that's. But if you start that way, then it plays right into the idea that we've got to protect, and the big guys are going to say, well, the Big 10 and SEC are going to say, well, we deserve 4 teams each.
How about this? You still go champions. That would be 4 champions plus 1 plus independent Notre Dame, and which is unfair. I don't think Notre Dame should get that prestige, but apparently that's the way college football likes to think. And then you could do the rankings beyond those. What is that? Would be 6 givens. And then you've got 10 at large that you could go by the rankings if you chose to do that. I want to get back to your position with the SEC, because there are a million cities now that have bowls that might have actually better stadium, or at least more. Even when the stadium is finished and it's gorgeous, it's only going to have 40,000, right?
Well, we think it's going to be a little bit more than that. But,
okay.
And we're really. And it's been debated here in the city. We have taken a position very early on that to be able to be competitive in the marketplace, that 50 was a good number, and that was the original plan. But hopefully it'll be closer to 50 than it is to 40. So, but I know we're still working with the university trying to, get to the best sweet spot there on the side of the stadium. But yes, you're right. We've got other cities that are all competing to get contracts with the SEC. And so what we're really sending the message to the community is we need to show the great community support for the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. And the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, a lot of people don't realize this, is the highest rated television event originating from Memphis, Tennessee. And that's better than the golf tournament, better than any Grizzlies game, any Tigers basketball and football game. And it's a great treasure for the city, 67 years. And so we're working very closely with any sponsor, any ticket buyer, and so that we can demonstrate to the SEC, to borrow Commissioner Sankey's phrase, it just means more to Memphis. We don't have an NFL team here, and so there's great support for the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, and it's a great economic impact. We support St. Jude, and so anybody out there listening that would like to jump in, and we've had some new companies say, hey, we want to jump in and participate. We'll buy some tickets or buy an ad in the game program. So that's going to be our position with the SEC, that it just means more to Memphis. We've got great community support. We're very blessed to have AutoZone, a hometown consumer products company, FedEx, a number of great presenting sponsors, and then we have about 150 corporate sponsors. That ranges from a small amount of support up into AutoZone and our presenting sponsors. So, because we don't have a beach, we don't have the indoor NFL stadiums, and so it's going to be a challenge. But I believe we can meet that challenge and hang on to our position with the Big 12 versus the SEC.
Do you think Greg Sankey appreciates the history and the affiliation of this bowl in their league and in the total picture of NCAA football? Because it's the sixth oldest bowl. Does he have any sense for that kind of contribution?
I do believe that Greg Sankey, and he is an honorable guy and a very smart guy, and he's a kind of a legacy. He appreciates history and tradition and the value of that. I'm probably more worried about some of these new younger athletic directors who maybe they haven't grown up in how powerful a bowl is. But I gave great props and a support when Hunter Yurchek was here. He said, I'm a big bowl guy, and he's representing Arkansas, which, maybe Arkansas makes the playoff now and then, but they're not going to be a power school like the Texases and the Alabamas and that kind of thing. And so, he wants to protect a great opportunity for his student athletes and his university to play in a classy bowl game. So he was very supportive. So, but Hunter's been around a long time. Remember, he was at the University of Houston before he went over to Arkansas. So yes, we're on a campaign, and so again, reaching out to folks like yourself, powerful media folks. See, Dave, you're in the powerful media group,
wow.
But local folks that would jump on board. We've had a few new companies. Just for example, the Lilly company we had not had a relationship with them, but we've met with those folks, and Lilly has stepped up and said we're going to be a big supporter of the AutoZone Liberty Bowl here because it's very important to our community. We've got so many challenges here, and the number one TV event coming out of Memphis, and one of the longest running traditions, brought more people to Memphis for economic impact than any other event in the city in the history. So, we're really reaching out. But yes, with that strength, I believe we can persevere and then be able to extend it and get a new 6-year contract with the SEC, Big 12, and ESPN.
Okay. Big 12 you think is pretty safe, and what about the ESPN deal? Will the money be as good with an expanded playoff?
Yeah, boy, you're asking these good but tough questions. ESPN, we have a great relationship with ESPN, and that's, again, partially because of our great sponsorship with AutoZone. But I believe we are the longest-running bowl game on ESPN in our history, and that's, as you said, we're one of the oldest bowl games, period. But I think we were one of the first bowl games. Remember, ESPN's not that old. The AutoZone Liberty Bowl is an older institution than ESPN itself.
Yeah, the ESPN didn't come
around 79, 80.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, yes, we do have a really good working relationship. We've met with Kurt Dargis, and he's the head of their football programming, and we're going to be meeting with him again in the near future. And this is apropos today because, David, a week from Monday, the meetings all start. The SEC meeting is in Destin. The Big 12 is meeting in Orlando. Actually, UCF is hosting meetings there, and then the American Conference is meeting in St. Petersburg. So we'll be represented at all three of those conference meetings the week of the 27th.
All right. Good luck to you. We'll have you on after those meetings so we figure out what the lay of the land looks like in your sense of it all. Steve Earhart, Big Cheese Head Honcho, thank you, buddy.
Appreciate you, and if there's anybody that wants to jump on board with us, we're open door, red carpet, and we appreciate everybody's support.
Thank you. That's Steve Earhart, brought to you by Sheldon Rosengarten from Mark Spendorf, who says to him the number 5 is very important. 5. Why 5? Because that's the number of strokes he makes on a par 3. That's because he sold another home after being on the market for only 5 days. And that's because he can never practice because he's selling homes, and they always seem to go fast. He sold many homes within 10 days. He even sold them before they hit the market. He just sold 2 homes in 18 days, one in Lakeland, another in Germantown. But he sells all over. That includes Collierville, East Memphis, Midtown. Keeping his clients happy is really his number one thing, no matter the number of days or hours they're on the market. He just has to make sure if you want the job done, you call him and it'll get done eventually for sure. So if you know somebody who is thinking of selling, talk to 2 or 3 real estate agents. Just make sure he's one of them, because Sheldon has this thing called the successful strategic marketing that involves all of the P's, pricing and preparation. He's got it down. This strategy works. That's why they call him Sheldon, 483-0546 or MemphisRelocate.com. That'll do it for us. Tomorrow, busy day. We handicap the Preakness. We'll talk about the Memphis-Louisville series with our good friend Paul Rogers from Louisville. We've got Andy Schiffman on with us, and we'll end our week with Muncie. Make sure you join us then. Johnny Radio's next. Have a great day, everyone.